So without further ado, I think we will start our panel today. I am very excited. We are having Ideas that Sprouted. And when we thought about this panel, we thought about it has been a little bit of a struggle, right? I think we can all appreciate that it has been a bit of a struggle for the last couple of years. And we wanted to connect with folks that had some inspiring ideas. Maybe they were feeling like they were a little buried, but they sprouted those ideas and wonderful things have been happening because of them. So that was the idea behind the panel. So I will introduce everybody now. First, we have Catherine Ferrar, the owner and operator of Jelly Girls. Interesting fact, there's a story about that name that I bet she's going to share with us later in the panel that I think is pretty cool. It's a successful jam, jelly, and condiment business. The business is growing, and from our kitchen was created from it to support the Jelly Girls and the need to share a facility with their other food businesses. There are many local food startup artisans and chefs seeking common kitchen space to start and grow their business. Our kitchen, or OKB, as its short form is a membership-based commercial kitchen facility with event space and home to many local food creators. And they have been catering our event this week, and I must say, delicious. Absolute everything from all of their local vendors. And they will be at our vendors market this afternoon as well on the property. So please come and check it out.
Thank you.
Our kitchen, Brantford, provides many foods for many seniors and families in need, the shelter, and the unfortunate who live on the street. They were introduced to the Downtown Neighborhood Association and began providing lunches for children in our local schools that are attending without food. This has grown to 194 meals produced daily, Monday to Friday, and locals have provided food and support. Our Kitchen of Brantford is now opening a nonprofit to support the growing need. They continue to look for community support. So we look forward to hearing about that. Our next panelist is Erica Walker. She was born and raised here in Brantford, Ontario. She is the founder of the local butterfly Facebook group called Raising Butterflies in Brantford and Brant County and surrounding areas in Canada. So just in case you missed it, Raising Butterflies in Brant County and surrounding areas in Canada, which is supported by Belonging Brant. She is very well known for her by her community for everything that she is doing to save the nature and the pollinators. She is Brant County's butterfly expert who has years of knowledge that has to do with everything about butterflies and butterfly gardening. She also works at the local zoo here in Brantford called Twin Valley Zoo as their new butterfly educator. We can't wait to hear more about that, Erica. And then last but not least, we have Bonnie Brennan. She has had a 15+ year career of project/program, subcontracts, and contract management in defense and security. And her philanthropic interests have always fallen to military families and women. During the pandemic, Bonnie was inspired by her husband's work developing and launching farmmarket.ca, which inspired her to find a way to help. Through various local community organizations and groups, she became aware of the access, or I guess the lack of access to menstrual products and a huge need in our area. While not directly impacted by poverty, Bonnie recognizes that a handful of different decisions could have drastically altered the course of her life, which is why she started the period pop-ups here in Brantford. So welcome everybody. We can't wait to get into this. I'm going to pass it over to Jenny to start us off with our first question.
Wow. So we have some great speakers today. I think the first question we have, and maybe we can kind of just each one of you answer this question a bit. What was the seed for this project? How did it come about? What inspired you to start these projects and helping others and giving back to your community? So I don't know, maybe if we could have Erica, if you want to start about, why, what was the seed that sprouted?
Well, in 2015, I first in 2015, I lost my brother Andrew from a drug overdose, and he was found frozen to death. And then it made me really, really depressed and sad. And then in 2017, 2 years later, I lost my other older brother, David, from a drug overdose as well. And then a year later, I lost my grandfather, Ken, who died from complications from a virus and from the Alzheimer's disease. They both really loved butterflies, so I decided to create my project to help the butterflies. And when I lost them, I was so depressed and sad that I couldn't find anything to lean on. So I went into butterfly gardening and helping the butterflies to cope with my grief.
It's amazing. It's turning something that's, really sad and giving back and turning something very beautiful. Thanks, Erica. Bonnie, do you want to touch base and tell us what was the seed for this project? What kind of, started
Absolutely.
up this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to say what a beautiful thing to come out of Erica's losses. It was kind of summarized in the bio that was read, but ultimately for me, the period pop-up was born out of the pandemic. As mentioned previously, my family was really blessed that we weren't negatively impacted, either our health or our careers, our home. We were very fortunate. And I just felt moved that I needed to contribute and do something in our community because, driving through certain parts of town, you see that people haven't been quite as fortunate. As mentioned previously, my husband is a web developer, and he created this website for local farmers and makers called farmmarket.ca. And I unfortunately didn't have any sort of marketable skill like that, having come from a defense and aerospace world. So I kind of struggled to find ways that I could help. I spent some time on the internet. My mother-in-law actually volunteered at the food bank, and we'd previously had conversations about how they provide menstrual products and that it was always a high in demand item for them at the food bank. So I kind of did some Googling and looking around, and I reached out to an organization in London called Tampon Tuesday, and it was the pandemic, the early days, and there was very little response. In fact, none. I reached out to the food bank. Again, they were closed. There was none. And it made me realize that I'm trying to help, and the people who need these items and have access issues, who's picking up the phone when they call. So I was just I reached out on Facebook, good old Facebook. I issued a post to one of our community, What's Happening Brantford, or Ask Anything Brantford. And I said, listen, is this something like, is there a need? Do you feel as a member of this community, is there a need in Brantford? Is this something you would support? So I guess that helped me find a couple students in Hamilton, McMaster students, who launched and created something called the Period Pop-Up. So their idea was funded through some government funding, and it launched in February of 2020. So right at the beginning of the pandemic. And part of their idea was to share their knowledge and make it so that everyone could launch their own period pop-up. So I looked at some of their resources, and I kind of leveraged them and changed things a little bit, did things a little different way. And thus the idea of the period pop-up was born. That was the seed.
Wow, that's great. And it's great that you just kept calling and, finding that, because definitely it's hard sometimes, when you don't get the answers you need. So that's amazing. Catherine, do you want to kind of give us some more information about what, started this project? What was the seed?
Sure. I just wanted to say that I'm very blessed to be on this panel with such amazing women. This is amazing. And how I got started, I started to make jams and jellies and pickles with the fruit from my property. So I became the Jelly Girls. to make a little story short, I needed a commercial kitchen to share, to increase my business and to share. I used to work in the Brantford kitchen, which was amazing, but it was a lot of work to do that, to bring everything over. So I developed the idea for a shared commercial kitchen with our kitchen Brantford, so that I could share the space with other people, other small food businesses, so we could be successful together. And out of that, and a pandemic, we struggled to get through. And what we did was we made meals for the community. It kept our members working. I had a couple of chefs make them. It kept the building open for everybody to still come and do what they needed to do. There was no events. There was no butter tart festivals, no caterings, nobody was celebrating anything that you would be able to have food with. So what we did was we encouraged the local stores and markets to carry the products of all of our people, and we built this all up in order to do that. So we made meals to go, and I delivered some of them, and it worked out really well. It kept our kitchen open. But in the process of this, we also started to reach out and feed people. Because there were no events, people couldn't celebrate funerals, they couldn't celebrate birthdays, they couldn't do that with people. We found ways to be able to do that with food, by either sending food, making an occasion for them, all kinds of things. And in doing that, we fed the shelter, 30 people, 3 days a week. We sent food out to the people on the street. We did this because we were making meals. This wasn't our normal business to do this, but we were getting successful at it in offering food to people. In all of this, we had a real need. We saw the need out there for people to enjoy food. For me, food is love. That's where the Jelly Girls comes from. I'm 6 of 7 kids. We had a farm. My mother always made sure there was food on the table. She always took food to her UCW meetings, all of that. We all waited. Is there anything left for us? You know, all of us. It was really amazing. My mother built a little food reputation and instilled that in all of us. So when it comes down to being able to feed people in need, and there is a real need out there, not just with the children that I'll go into, but with our seniors. Our seniors, some of them don't want to go to the grocery store. The pandemic was very crushing for a lot of people to get out and do the things they normally did. So when the DC pandemic, you know, we started to get successful, our members were coming back, everything was doing, we started to make meals again because we saw the need out there. The Downtown Central Neighborhood Society came to us and they asked us, can you help us out with 30 children in one of the schools? They don't have food. We said, okay, we can do that. We're making meals again. We can put it in as part of our program. And unfortunately, the need grew. And I know my bio's at 194. We're at 200 right now. We're feeding 200 of the local children in 11 schools, Monday to Friday. We're sending out hot meals. The volunteers are picking them up, hot meals on a Monday with another 200 cold sandwiches for the next day. Wednesday, they're coming again. We have another beautiful hot meal for them and a cold meal for Thursday. And on Friday, we have what we call Sunday Dinner Friday, where we have a full hot meal that goes out to them that would be good as a Sunday dinner, mashed potatoes or mashed, and actually what we served our first day at Symposium was an example of what we give the children. We have a pretty incredible chef that's come in. He's a charity chef. His name is Chef Sean, and he came in to ensure that we have the proper nutrition for the children. What we were sending out was basically donations and very simple food. He made sure that there's vegetables in everything, there's proteins in all the meals. He makes a beautiful meal. If you check our site or our kitchen, you'll see what we send out to the kids all the time. It's actually breaking our heart that we have to do this, and we're getting support from all over the place, but we still need more support in order to continue this. So The seed for what we do probably came from my mother, ensuring that everybody ate at her kitchen table. Everybody that dropped in, we would just pull something else out. We had things from the garden we preserved. We baked cakes, we did all that. We saved all of that food. And that's an important part of what the Jelly Girls is doing now too. We're saving the food. We're asking people, you know, to stop the waste. We'll be talking to the farmers to be able to produce things for them to sell on their farms. They haven't been able to do that in all of this length of time. We're here to ensure that none of this food is wasted and it all goes to a good cause. Our children need to nourish. Our seniors need to be happy and comfortable, you know, in their lives. And every need out there needs to be met. Any food need needs to be met and nutritiously. So that's the seed.
Wow. Well, thank you, Catherine. That's a beautiful story as well. And I think, you know, it really, it kind of rings home to me that, you know, food, it's about gathering and connecting. So definitely, thank you so much. I'll let Tara ask the next question.
Thank you all. This is wonderful. So I think the next thing I'm sure everybody has questions about is how did these ideas flourish? So maybe tell us a little bit more about what you do and what helped make those ideas really come to life. And how about if we start with this second question with Bonnie?
Sure. I realize that, well, that you may not know what a period pop-up is. The Brantford Period Pop-Up is a accessible 24/7 pantry of feminine hygiene products that is available to anyone who needs them. We have one dedicated pantry, and it's located at Why Not Youth Center at 368 Colburn Street here in Brantford. We support BL and her network of pantries, and I'll mention a little bit more about her shortly. And we also support the Paris Pantry and the Scotland Pantry. So right now we're supporting 5 or 6 pantries, and those products are all community donated. And they're available to anyone who needs them. So to kind of elaborate on what helped make the idea flourish, I'm going to go back to social media, and I hate saying that, but it was this community on social media. As a result of that posting that I mentioned when the idea was fairly new, it was suggested to me that I reach out to BL, who I had never heard of. And I was able to meet this incredible family. And I think I see them in attendance, but I'm not sure. I was able to connect with them and learn about what they do. And if you're not familiar, they run a network of pantries, food and clothing and book pantries accessible in our community as well. The incredible things they're doing are humbling, in all honesty. And I learned so much just from every brief conversation I have with BL and their family. So I would actually say that they helped my idea flourish more than anyone else. There has been a few local small businesses that have been so helpful. As well, I was able to participate in a program at Laurier downtown called the Community Changemaker Program. And through that program, I learned all sorts of tools and techniques to kind of make this idea successful and think it through a little differently than I had previously and more thoughtfully. But ultimately, this idea has flourished because of this community and the supporters and the people who are out filling up the pantries and thankfully coming to my home to pick up products and donating products and telling their friends about it and spreading social media posts. That's what has really made this idea flourish.
Thank you. It's so great to hear how community partners are really working together to make these things come to fruition. And I saw on our board at the back, it said building a village, and I guess it really does take a village for these projects. So thank you for sharing. Okay, I think next we'll go to Kathy.
Ready. To expand, let me tell a little story about where the Jelly Girls came from, which is true. So I was 6 of 7 kids raised on the farm to Jim and Betty Jelly. So that I have 3 sisters, and when I moved to a property in Brant County, that was, gosh, in 2011, I found that the next year I had a full garden full of everything. I had apple trees and pear trees and a lot of beautiful fruit. My sisters came up and helped me to create everything that I did. I know that our first weekend we made 95 jars of preserves. Now, I'd never done that before. I was the girl with 3 sisters. I was the girl who, if I couldn't glue it, I couldn't do it. So my sisters always made everything, cooked everything. I didn't need to do that. So they were more than happy to come and help me create all these things and jams and jellies and all of that. So that's how the Jelly Girls came to be, because people liked my products. And my niece had said, why don't you sell this? I said, nobody will buy my jam. And here I am years later. Well, that's how we got started. And that's how the name came about. All our lives, we were called the Jelly Girls growing up. So I took the name with their permission, and that's how we got started. So the preserving and the love of food is, it's been in my family for a very long time. And no, I didn't like the gardening that I had to do, but we came from a little town, and our cornfield was on the edge of all the properties in a little town called Mossley. So we were like monkeys in the trees, where we jumped the fence and we went into this little Garden of Eden that I used to go into, and we would eat the apples and the pears, and it was all beautifully manicured, and there was a, greenhouse in there that she used to preserve things. It was the most wonderful time of my life as a kid, going in there and doing that. So years later, I always thought, I want to have a big house with, there's lots of kids in my family. I didn't want to share the house. I wanted it all to myself. And I wanted the Garden of Eden in the backyard. And I was lucky enough to have that happen in 2011 with my little Garden of Eden. I just kept growing things and continuing on. So I learned how to preserve and how to do all of those things. And that's how it led me to get into the kitchen. I was always a volunteer. The Paris Homecraft, I used to volunteer in the kitchen there. When I worked in like regular business, I used to work for companies like, in my other life, BlackBerry and Bell Canada and CGI. I know I don't look like a tech support person, but I used to be. And I used to put all the potlucks and everything together for people to do that. So food has always been a part of my life. But my way of doing a potluck was you open up 4 boardrooms on the 4th floor of BlackBerry, and you invite everybody on the floor, and you tell them to bring whatever they want. It's not a oh, you bring this and you bring that. It's you bring whatever you want. So with all the cultures and everything in there, went to McDonald's and bought hamburgers during that time, and you forgot to bring something, that doesn't matter. We had lots of food. Get in there and enjoy. It was for everybody. If people were visiting, they could go. That was the idea of having a potluck and everybody bringing and sharing food. So that was pretty amazing. But we always did that. I always took my jams and jellies places and said, you got to try this one. So sharing food is a big part of this. So preserving it, saving it, and offering it to people will always probably be a part of my mission. So kind of a little continuation.
Thank you. I really appreciate these. Such a theme this week leading through is food and the connections that people have through food and the way that we connect. And for folks that didn't get an opportunity to see the food panel earlier, the stuff that you're sharing, Kathy, really resonates with what those folks were sharing too. And this and that panel will be live on our Facebook. So yeah, so many amazing stories around food. Thank you for sharing. And then Erica, please share more with us. So let us know a little bit more about your butterfly project and how it's flourished.
So first I'll tell you guys about how I got interested in loving butterflies, and then I'll get into how it flourished. So ever since my grandfather, Ken, and my brothers, Andrew and David, passed away, I kept visiting the Butterfly Conservatory in Cambridge. And this very rare butterfly from Costa Rica called the blue morpho has been landing on me ever since they passed away, especially on the anniversary of their deaths, their birthday, my birthday, and Christmas. That butterfly keeps landing on me, and it helped me bring peace into what I do, and it helped me feel more comfortable with them not being here anymore. And I had an experience with the blue morpho for my birthday. This past birthday in December, three blue morphos landed on me. So how my project flourished is that, again, when I lost my grandfather and my brothers, it was really hard for me to deal with. And I didn't know how to deal with it because it was my first time dealing with grief. Since I understood what death meant, but I didn't know how to deal with it since my first time. So I decided to get into the love of butterflies and interested in helping them. So in 2018, in the spring, a few months after I lost my grandfather, I purchased a butterfly bush at a local garden center in memory of him to enjoy the butterflies. And ever since, I've had about 100 butterflies visit the bush. And then in 2020, I created my garden for my brothers at home, where I planted milkweed for the monarch butterflies and monarchs. And the milkweed is a monarch's #1 host plant. So I wanted to, since I couldn't save my brothers from their dark days, I decided to plant milkweed to bring the monarchs back, to raise them and to bring new life into it, since I couldn't save my brothers from it. And I got a confirmation from my friend who is a medium. She told me that my brothers are with me and are guiding me through my project, and they do know that I dedicated my project in honor of them. So how my project flourished is that I started to raise butterflies in 2020, which I didn't prepare for, but I wanted to raise butterflies to bring their populations back, since their population has been in decline 90% in the past 20 years due to us humans damaging their habitats and building homes on top of their homes, which I felt bad about. So I wanted to do something about it. So I created my project in honor of my brothers and my grandfather, to share my knowledge with people. And it has grown pretty much. I created it in November 2020. And now I have over 1,600 people who have joined across the country to help the butterflies in my brothers and my grandfather's honor. And then Belonging Grant has helped me with my project as well by advertising for my project, and to help advertise my project and help get me supplies for my project as well. And my zoo friends at my zoo family at my work, Twin Valley Zoo, helped my idea flourish as well, because I was supposed to be a part of the Brantford Food Forest to bring butterflies in and to share my knowledge there, but unfortunately that fell through. And then my friend Jen Stallman, who is my friend Thomas's Stallman's wife, who owns the zoo, came to me in my group. Well, she's part of it. She came and noticed that that I'm not a part of the Brantford Food Forest, and she felt bad and wanted me to go to the zoo and have something there. And then this past summer, they hired me as a butterfly educator, where I offer educational talks on Wednesdays, and I offer storybook time for families with young children on Sundays.
Wow. Thank you, Erica. You're so busy. It's amazing how it's grown in such a short period of time. So what can people expect on it's a Facebook group, right?
Yeah, and we're also on Instagram as well.
So what kind of stuff do you share on your Facebook? What could people expect if they followed your Facebook page?
Well, I share plants and butterfly species on there. Like I create these guides, since my project is a social group, so I share guides about what plants to attract butterflies, and I have guides about what native plants are here in Ontario and Canada who help the butterflies as well. And I share tips and tricks as well. And I also I will be sharing the days and times of my butterfly talks as well, if anyone is interested in joining those. And I just share my knowledge of butterflies with everyone.
Thank you. Just a short story. Before I met Erica, I followed her butterfly group. I didn't know who was behind it. And just a real great sense of community with the folks that are on that butterfly group, including Erica. I moved into a new house and somebody posted, I have some extra plants if anybody needs them and is interested in attracting pollinators and butterflies. And I had a whole box of plants dropped on my doorstep before I even knew it. So just great community that you've created there, Erica. So now I will pass it back over to Jenny for our next question.
Great. So another question we have for you is, what do you see for the future of these projects? Like, what do you see? What sky's the limit? Give us a little bit of an idea what you foresee. Bonnie, do you want to start?
Yep. I struggle a bit with this one. So in the short term, I see building momentum and raising awareness and realizing that, there's a certain cost to being a human that we're charged. Some people are charged, and not everyone can afford it. And some people have to prioritize accordingly. And there's impacts to that. There's impacts to how somebody might feel about their body, or how they feel they smell, or whatever the impacts are for that person. Just raising that awareness and building the momentum. In the long term, it would be so great to have a community whose needs are taken care of. And if in the long term we could see period positive bathrooms in public places, and to me that means using a restroom and there's menstrual items available, and at no cost to anyone. It's just naturally, without thinking, throwing an extra item in your grocery cart every month and furthering it along, whether that be to the period pop-up or to the food bank or someone, because it's those of us who can afford it. It's not that big of a sacrifice for us. And I would love in the long term to see it become just like, oh, well, someone else can use this too, so I'm going to grab one, throw it in the cart, just as a natural. I mean, it's big picture goal, but just always making sure that those products are accessible, because we're all humans and we all need the same things. And ultimately just reducing that burden so that people can live a better life.
Thank you. That's great. Catherine, what do you see in the future?
Well, I know we're going to go through a tough time for food coming up. It just is. The cost is up, and that's just the way things are. I see the community coming together even more, with our community gardens and our food forests. Everybody is making a really great effort to save that food out there and get the very best of it. It just get better and better. I would like to offer classes, and I know there's classes around for people to how to preserve things, how to use it, how to have meals put together properly, inexpensively, so you're spending, you know, less money on what you're doing. It's a total education of what needs to happen right now to not waste that food, to not throw it away, to talk to places that, you know, have the excess before they hit the expiry date, before they go. And I know the pantries are doing an absolutely amazing job. We've worked with them as well. The rescue trucks, people, the charities. Our chef Sean is working with a charity that helps us to bring food and pallets. I need from Toronto, from hotels. That's how they kept their people busy and their doors open, was they made food, you know, offered from charitable, wealthy corporate sponsors that had that food made and made it available. My biggest issue is trying to find storage for it, to get it out, to be able to use it. So that's a challenge for me at this time with the storage space. But I think everyone is recognizing that we need to save this food that's here. We need to do it now. We need to not waste, and we all need to participate in it. Go to those gardens, you know, pull out a weed, get some fresh herbs, find out what to do with those fruits and vegetables. You don't need to necessarily make a sweet jam or anything with them. You can make a beautiful preserve that has less sugar. You know, my mom used to do it all the time. We do an apple pie filling that is made with, you know, the regular spices, a little bit of tapioca to thicken it. It's the most beautiful way to preserve fruit, and we all have them on all the trees all around us. We have rhubarb patches that aren't being touched, that have been on properties for a while. We have asparagus that might be growing up through your grass. Like, get a hold of it and use that stuff and enjoy it while it's fresh, and learn to preserve it, and take care of it and save it for another time. It's all nutritious. It's just, there's a whole big learning experience, but I do see the community coming together, and here in Brantford, they're really recognizing it. I'm so very proud of all of that, and everybody's efforts to do that. So I'm looking forward to getting more support for these children through government agencies and people that should be responsible for the population here. But as a community, the volunteers and everybody are doing an absolutely amazing job at ensuring that everybody gets food. So I see a very positive result for this through a very tough time.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, it really kind of hones into education, that piece. I mean, I think, and I reflect back to my childhood and looking at how my grandmother would do preserves and going in her basement and seeing that, and how I don't have that skill. So it's kind of a lost skill. So I definitely think, yeah, education, that really is maybe the way to go. Thank you. Erica, where do you see your projects in the future? Where do you see this taking off?
Well, I can see that my project will grow in the next couple of months when we start getting into the summer, which my people who are helping me with my project were thinking that it will reach to 2,000 people across Canada, but I know it will grow each year as it goes by, and I'm hoping in a few years we can reach 10,000 people. That's my goal. And that, what I also see is that I'll also be working at Twin Valley Nature Park as well every spring and summer to teach the guests about the butterflies and ways to help them.
Amazing. I definitely see a trend again about education, that piece as well, especially for the children and, you know, for our future. So absolutely. Thank you, Erica. Tara, let you take it away.
Thank you. How many plants do you think you've got planted in Brant County? Could you even hazard a guess, Erica, of how many butterfly friendly plants because of your project have been planted in our area?
Well, last year I created my own butterfly garden at Twin Valley, which is called, if you guys go to Twin Valley, they created a street sign that's called the Rainbow Boulevard, which is where my garden is on, and they have a sign for me called Erica's Butterfly Garden. And in my garden, I have 90% native plants that are native here in Ontario. So, and plus I also created another garden there last year. So technically right now, we've planted probably over 100 plants for the butterflies, and this year will be even more because I'll be putting in 7 or 8 new gardens at my workplace on top of the wildflower field that we'll be putting on, and the garden that I'm also helping at my program at Willowbridge. So probably double that amount of plants this year, or maybe even more than that.
Amazing. And even just the people that you've inspired to plant in, like, for example, at my house. I think there's probably 10 that have survived the year. So we have our final question here. And then we're going to go break into groups and have some group discussions around how these ideas have inspired us. But first, I'm sure all of us would like to know how we can get involved with some of these projects. I know that some of you have already shared some ideas, but I think we can never hear enough how it is we can get involved and be helpful. So please let us know. Kathy, would you like to start this time?
Sure, there's a whole lot everybody can do to participate in this, and that's first thing is the awareness of it. We had no idea there were so many children that needed help, and there are so many more that we haven't even begun to help. So first is the awareness. Have a look around. It is not schools in your area that you think it would be. It's everywhere in the city. It is a huge issue. How you can help is a big part of it. Is to, you could come to the kitchen. You could come to the kitchen, be part of a volunteer group, because now we need not only people to put the meals together, but we need anybody who wants to chop the vegetables and do all that. We've kind of been doing it on our own, and it's a, a kind of a big burden, and we welcome everybody to come in, the teachers helping us out to get the understanding of it. So you could come into the kitchen and do that. You could go to our website. We'll have something up soon. We've been a little slow with a couple of things, but pay attention to what you have and what you're growing, and see if you can save that and grab get your rhubarb out there and offer it to somebody. No, I don't mean everybody needs to come in and give it all here. Give it to your neighbor, give it to somebody, but do not let it waste. Your apple trees, all this beautiful produce that you have in your garden. If you have an overabundance of things, you could share them, and a lot of people do. But they could also come and go into meals that we have here for the kids. We're always looking for things like that. We don't want to put any more stress on the food vendors, like the markets that we have around. So we're not asking them to give, and they've always been very generous. But what we would like to do is have people purchase from them to give. That way you're still feeding the community. They're not having to give up anything. That's been a struggle for them too, and the costs are high of everything that they have. Now they're going into their busy season. So, please just pay a lot of attention to what you have around you and what can be shared. If you can't help financially, that's okay. Come and give a helping hand whenever you can. We're trying to set up all of that. Talk to your neighborhood associations. They're the ones that brought this need to us. They are well aware of what's going on, and they're helping as much as they can. Their volunteers are amazing. They come and pick the meals up and take them to the schools. We ensure that they have the proper packaging to take them and things like that. It's another thing. We have packaging needs We have all kinds of things like that to send individual meals out to the kids. And we're trying to work on a summer program that we can actually offer meals. Now that is not, it's not set in stone yet, but we will still be giving over this period of time. We want to ensure that those kids that are not in school do not suffer some of the same issues that they've suffered over the last couple of years. So just if you want to participate in that, your neighborhood associations are there for you and your schools and the children and everyone in your area and the city. So be an active part in your neighborhood groups. They need your help and they really appreciate that. And it all flows down to us as well. So there's many ways that you can help.
Thank you. There was lots of great ideas there. I know that we all have those tomatoes at the end of the year. I've said it twice already at this conference, but like, I know there's a time of year that everywhere I go, someone is trying to give me tomatoes. And if we collectively figure this out, so thank you for pointing out those. Really appreciate it. Next, we'll go over to Erica. So how can people get involved with your project?
Well, people can follow me and my project on Instagram, and our Instagram is called Raising Butterflies in Canada, and it's all lowercase. I talk about plants and butterflies and what I'm doing at the zoo on there, and also join my project, which is called Raising Butterflies in Brant County plus surrounding areas in Canada as well. And I share lots of information on there that everyone can look at. And my project has two amazing big sponsors here in Brantford. I highly recommend you visiting them. One is Walter's Greenhouse and Garden Center. Diane, Lisa, and Walter is absolutely amazing towards my project. Last year, they donated about 14 plants to help me flourish my garden last year that filled up my horntail butterfly garden. And then at the end of the year, Diane kindly donated the rest of the perennial flowers they had at Walter's that they wanted to get rid of. So they kindly donated those plants to my project, where I was able to plant them in my garden at home, and the rest went to my gardens at the zoo. At the end of the year, last year, they donated about between 50 and 80 plants at the end of the season, which are all perennials. They looked kind of banged up, but that means that they're done in the season, but they'll come back. The catmint is starting to come back in my garden that they donated to me. And then the other sponsor that I highly recommend you visiting is Antlers Services Inc., which is behind the mall. They supported my project a lot as well. Two people from Antlers have joined my project, and they've donated plenty of seed packs for my gardens to help me with the butterflies as well. Those garden centers are amazing. Also, I also have another, my project sponsor is Canas, which is the garden center on the reserves. I highly recommend them as well. They donated about 3 or 4 pollinator packs to my garden, to my project last year, where I put in my garden at the zoo. They specialize, if anybody does not know what Canas is a garden center on the reserve on Six Nations. They are amazing people. They specialize in native plants here in Ontario that help bring back biodiversity and the pollinators, which is awesome. Those garden centers are amazing supporters for my project. And then anyone can join to support my project. And also my zoo family at Twin Valley Nature Park also supports my project as well. and I have a big collaboration with them as well. My project and I have brought all the pollinator gardens there that are already there. My garden I created as well there that I brought to you by my project as well. And if you go see the Twin Valley Zoo, all the changes that are made at the nature park that has to do with pollinators and butterflies, it had to do with me. And I'm also looking forward to getting support from people in the community and other garden centers and belonging grant to help with my project in the next coming years.
Excellent. Thank you, Erica. I know you have some exciting things like some seed shares and letting folks know what those ideal plants are. And you're sharing all of that on your page. So I'm looking forward to seeing that come to fruition as well. Really exciting. And then finally, Bonnie, how can we get involved? How can we, where else? I know you mentioned some places that you could drop off some products. So are there any more than just the food bank? Because, you know, I have to be honest, I always think about the food during the holiday season and the rest of the year, but I never think about those additional items.
Yeah, and that's absolutely the problem is when people are donating, nobody thinks about those hygiene items. We do have a number of drop-off places right now through the month of May. We're in Menstrual Hygiene Month. So Sacred Spaces Brant is accepting donations on our behalf. Moto Yoga, downtown Brantford, is also accepting donations. Pies and Tarts from the Heart is a donation location in Scotland. Also, Maurice's at Linden Park Mall accepts donations for us. One of my challenges is that sometimes I'm the one scurrying around picking up donations. So I also will do that. I'll drive all over town to pick up donations if I have to. If push ever came to shove, donating directly to the pantries is also good. Anything to get those products into the hands of the people that need them as soon as possible so that they can focus on the food and those basic necessities of life that they need. I would just kind of echo what Erica has and Catherine have said, that you know, just the advocacy at home, spreading the word in our workplaces, communities, and neighborhoods, raising the awareness and having the conversations for menstrual products, and kind of to Catherine's idea of holding drives. So whether that be menstrual products, whether that be leftover rhubarb, which definitely goes to waste very much because there's not a lot of people who know how to prepare it anymore, and donating products and or funds, and finally volunteering. So if that's through one of the amazing pantry organizations in our community like BL's, directly with period pop-ups, or even just on your own when you can, there's always ad hoc and ongoing opportunities available. So that's, I guess that would be my recommendation on how to get involved.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for these fantastic ideas. I know that I have a bunch of ideas that have been rolling through my mind from this panel and also from the whole week, bringing it all together. So what we thought as a group today we could do is maybe break off into some small groups and maybe chat about some of those ideas or some of the things that have come up for us in this panel that maybe we have, you know, we're thinking down the road or future ideas. But first, let's see if there's any questions for our three panelists before we move on. We'll give it a few minutes so that if people in the live room want to be able to get any questions they have into the chat. Just while we're waiting, on the topic of rhubarb, in the food panel, we found out that you can make a spicy rhubarb, like a savory curry rhubarb, which I had never heard about. So learning so many things this week.
You can make everything. You can make everything with rhubarb. I do I call it rhubarb barbecue sauce. I do a hot one. I do a nice one. I do we do rhubarb jellies. Actually, the Browndale Farms has a huge rhubarb patch there. They bring us their rhubarb. We make them their products to sell in their Browndale store there. So if you want to try some spicy jellies and some barbecue sauce and things like that, that's an excellent thing for the rhubarb.
Fantastic. Okay, I think Jenna is going to turn her microphone on. It looks like we have a question.
What would be the best way to help out in terms of volunteering? Like, are there specific, I heard someone mention a Facebook site, but is there a phone number or best times?
How about if we go around and we'll start with Erica? Do you have any volunteers?
Well, not really, but at the Twin Valley Nature Park is amazing because this past year, they absolutely love people who have special needs and people who have disabilities because for me, I don't know if anybody knows this, and I belong in Brant, and Jenny knows this, that I'm born with a rare genetic disorder called Prader-Willi syndrome, which is only 1 in 1,500 people are born with it. And with Twin Valley Nature Park, they just make me feel very welcoming, and they love me there, and they outpour their love for me and anyone who has special needs there. And also this year, they are having people helping me with the gardens there who have special needs as well. We have someone who has autism will be helping to help out. And we're having someone who is visually impaired as well who will be helping out as well. So if anyone is interested in helping out with the gardens as well, you're more than welcome to help me as well. And I also have an email as well if anyone is looking for helping my project at all, or if you have donations or anything for my project, like plants or anything, you can contact me through there.
Erica, would you feel comfortable typing your email address in the chat and
Yep.
then people could see it?
I
Okay,
can put
and
it right there.
that would be amazing. Okay, so Kathy, how can volunteers get involved?
Well, it would really be great if you could actually come and see what we're doing. We're at 20 Roy Boulevard, Unit 34, and we're actively feeding the children. You know, we're working on it every day, but we're doing it Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. But if you come to the kitchen at any time and just come in and see what we're doing here, you can fill out a volunteer form, and there's various ways that you can help. You can work with our food companies. You can actually be in the lineup on one day when we're putting the packages together. You can chop vegetables, or there's all kinds of things you can do. We're a food company, so we have food companies in here. We're all working together, so it's a bustling place. Any place you want to put your hands and learn how to do something, it's a good time as well. But we would like a lot more volunteers to be not replacing our regular staff to do the volunteer work, but it would sincerely help us out so that we can, you know, do what we do in other areas. So, you know, and supply food. So you can just come into 20 Roy Boulevard, Unit 34. You can call us at 519-757-6527. I can put all that information in the chat. Check out our Instagram. You'll see what we're doing. You see how we're trying to pull the community in. We had an Easter dinner once where you could buy meals. We ended up donating 26 full meals to families and 16 individual meals, I think, that day. So out of that came that. So even if you're not purchasing a meal for yourself, you're purchasing it for somebody else. We have sandwiches every day that we sell here for $15. It's a full sandwich with sides and everything else. It's actually a lesser price, but our signs say 15. Got to fix that. And if you come in here and purchase, those proceeds will go directly there. Anything purchased from our membership benefits our membership, and our food shop is open 6 days a week. So Monday to Saturday. Please come and see us. I know Farm Market, I'm on your site too, and thank you very much. It's a beautiful site, and everything that you're doing is, amazing. So that's helped us as well. We'll put something back on the site there too, to refer to this part of it, because a lot of our members are on your site as well. So there's like a zillion ways you can do that. We're actually looking for a bigger location. We're looking for volunteers for picking up things, delivering things, that kind of stuff. It isn't just a small operation anymore. So, but that's how you can help.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, and then Bonnie, how can we help with the period pop-ups?
The best way is to probably contact me through one of our social media channels, so Facebook or Instagram. We do have opportunities for somebody to check on a pantry a day a week, and people to package goods that they don't even have to really leave their home to do, and also delivery. I constantly need delivery, so my opportunities may be ad hoc, or they may be regular, or whatever fits anyone's schedule.
Wonderful. Thank you. Those are all great options. Do we have any other questions? Bonnie, yes.
I had a question. I had a question for Erica, and I'm not sure if okay. My question was just as we kind of tidy up our gardens for the spring, and we may find ourselves with spare bulbs or whatever. Is that something that Erica's project would be interested in receiving?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And so would the best way be to message you also on social media or your email address that you've shared?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll add my
Wonderful.
project's Facebook page here too if anyone wants to join.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Again, so thank you everybody for coming and listening. So just to review before we break into our groups, we have the Brantford Period Pop-Ups, can be followed on social media. The butterflies in Brant County and surrounding area is on Facebook and Instagram, and Our Kitchen out on Roy Boulevard, Unit 34, for any volunteer opportunities. So now, if you're in the live room, you can break into small groups. I think we're going to do triads here, which is 3 people online, and we can kind of talk about why we wanted to come today. So what kind of what interested us, and what made us want to learn about this today. And then the second part of that question is, was there anything that you felt inspired by any of these conversations today? So we'll take about 15 minutes in our groups, and then we will come back. So I will, in the live room, if you would like to maybe we'll break into 2 groups now, just to make it a little bit easier. So we'll stay here online, and we'll wave goodbye to the folks in the live room, and maybe you can talk amongst yourselves. But if you have any questions for the panelists, please just pop back on and let us know. Okay, so just give me one moment to set up the breakout rooms. Okay, see you all in a few minutes. Well, after 15 minutes.
No,
She came back into the main room, which is only supposed to be.
Hi, Jacqueline. Would you like to come?
You're-
Would you like to go back into room 3? I can't hear you, actually. There, can you hear me now? I can't hear you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. No, I'm good.
You're
I'm
good.
good. I was with Kathy and she was like, we
Okay.
had already talked, and then she was going to load a truck to head over to you guys. So I'm like, go
Okay.
ahead, go.
Okay. Awesome.
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
So if you want to review and maybe and then that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay. They're closing in a second. Sorry.
Hey, in a minute, I'm gonna need you guys, it must pull out.
It's hard.
Hello all. So we had some folks leave. I apologize for that. So some of the rooms were slow, and I think that a few people, including Jacqueline, is it Jacqueline or Jacqueline? Jacqueline? They got left alone, so then I think they might have left as well. So I apologize for that for folks, but maybe what we could do is just kind of have a wrap up. I wrap up together kind of a little bit. I know there was some great conversations. I know Sheila was talking about some products being sent up north. It's too bad Bonnie left. I fear she ended up in a room by herself, or with somebody that wasn't really there. And also some great food programs that Kitty and Sheila were talking about. Did you have any other interesting conversations in any of the other rooms?
I know I just was talking a bit about how I'd love to learn how to jam and do some preserves as well. I mean, I think that would be amazing. So I was talking about that with Erica. We were having good conversations.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a very interesting idea because I also don't know how to do that. I tried once and I ended up making salsa, and it went really well the first time, and then the second time I exploded salsa all through my pot. Like one of them exploded. I don't know what happened, but because we had so many tomatoes. I keep bringing up those tomatoes, but you get a lot of them. So that would actually be a really cool thing to have, like a learning session.
Yeah.
For sure.
And even making if everyone was making a little bit something, kind of different, almost like a share, like a cookie swap, but your favorite preserve swap. That would be amazing. So you could try different things because you don't need like 20 million pickles or, cucumbers or anything like that. So that would be great.
I was saying to Jacqueline that we, up until last year, I would take everything that was in the freezer. So say you had corn on the cob, you take the extra, you throw it in a bag in the freezer, any extra beans, any extra things, from the garden at any time. And then you take all the tomatoes that are coming out. And what you do is I used to call it end of harvest. So end of season, and you just put it all in a big pot. And you can it just like it is. So you can thicken it at any time with tomato paste for a sauce. You can have it as a soup. You can do whatever. And I used to just jar tons of it to save that. If everybody did that, they'd have enough sauce and things to last them. It used to last me the entire year. You can make a spaghetti sauce out of it. You can put it in a stew. You can have a soup in it. You can thicken it up and do anything with it. You can cook meat in it long term, and it's just beautiful. So there's so many things that you can do if you just get a few jars in and, do it the proper way. It'll last you the whole season. And I think everybody should do that. Then you would always have something nutritious to eat. So
It's really about sustainability. I think a lot of times we think these things are going to be very difficult. And then once you do them, you realize It's pretty easy and it's more cost effective than going out and grabbing fast food and healthier.
Yeah.
The folks in the room said that there was about 15 to 20 people in the live room. Everybody really loved this conversation and they've given lots of ideas and put them in the paper bag. Somebody just came and told me that. So I'm wondering if one of our ideas that we should take from here and put it in the bag would be maybe a group around collecting canning and things of that nature. Does that seem like something? Did we have any other ideas that we could put in with the larger conference? I know I heard that one from Jenny, but did any of the other groups or has anybody else had any ideas that they think would be good to put in the bag? Think of all the canning classes that could happen in the fall. I'm guessing that's more of a fall.
Well, they can happen now. Asparagus season is just right there. Like everything is starting to come out. Asparagus is so good for you. It just, when you preserve it, what we do is it gets slightly cooked in the canning process. And that's all that needs to happen for it to be nutritious at any time. It keeps its food value. So we put a little bit of spice in it sometimes and we just have it plain, but I found that it just disappears. But it's so good for you, you know, within that year to have that. So you can start right now of everything that's there and look at the things in your garden. Like it's crazy, but the dandelions are out now. Go get those beautiful leaves. They're bitter, but they're good. You could do the roots, but that gets a little messy and time consuming. It's actually easier to get the benefit of it from, say, purchasing a dried root and making teas or putting it into some things. But the dandelions are out there, you know, the bees like them. Everybody likes them except the people that want to cut them in their lawn. But get out there and get those greens. They're so nutritious for you. There's all kinds of things. I used to do the blossoms from the forsythia bush. And the dandelions, like I would just make that, make it into like a little jelly or something. There's so many things that you can use right now. There's flowers that are edible. There's all kinds of stuff. And I know they're just starting to come up, but yeah, at any time, canning, preserving, drying. The pots, there's rosemary out in these huge baskets. We have one here at the kitchen from Alberta Farms. You can, you know, start to use all the sprigs now. You can dry it, you can use it fresh, you can do tons of things with it. So to get started right now, it's just, then you got lots of practice for that canning season so that you can actually fill your own cupboards with it. And that is the plan for here, is as we're doing ours, people can, come and do theirs. We just need a little bit more room now. By the fall, I'm hoping we'll have it. So yeah, time to get started right now. Don't waste anything.
Does anybody else have anything to share before we get going? Well, I wrote down some of my ideas. I'll share them with you. So the one was it was actually Jenny's idea, but I wrote it down as canning classes throughout the seasons to help with make sure there's no food waste. I really loved when Bonnie shared that just throwing a little something in your basket, that inspires me, not just for period products, but for food and all of those day-to-day products, just thinking when things are on sale. And, you know, I love a sale, so I want to throw extra in my cart, but I don't always have the storage room. Just going and grabbing those things when I see they're on sale and doing that extra step, dropping them off on my way to work at one of the locations, whether it be the food bank or one of the locations she mentioned. So that's an idea that I really want to stick with. The other one is planting one pollinator plant, one butterfly and pollination friendly plant this season. So I'm going to make sure that one of the plants that I put in my garden, one of the perennials that I put in this year is going to be a pollinator. I think I'm going to go with mint, but I don't know if that's actually a plant that is local, but I will make sure to keep it in my garden because I love mint. And I know that the bees and butterflies always used to come and land on it when I had it at my old house. So that's what I'm going to commit to. And that is because of all the wonderful panelists that spoke today. So I really appreciate you sharing all of your stories. And hopefully we will see all of you in the near future.
That
And to
sounds
everybody-
awesome.
Yeah. And so I know the larger group, we're going to get done a little bit early today, but I know we all have busy schedules, so I don't think anyone's going to mind. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Again, just a reminder that there is the community conversation where we're going to really harvest a lot of these fantastic ideas from the whole 3 days, in person and virtual, but that will be a virtual event on the 17th. So it's next Tuesday from 3 to 4:30. It's really just these conversations, getting to know one another and what can come from all of these great ideas moving forward. So we hope to see lots of you there. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you. Thank you to everyone for being a part of this. You're amazing. You're all amazing.
Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Everybody, have a great day.